You either have the big mass and you kind of cut away from it, or you start extruding things from basically nothing. And your goal is kind of, do I want these holes to hit certain areas,
right,
or do I want the holes to avoid certain?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is it's like you create asymmetry by the part itself, and you create those cuts and voids you're talking about by making those cuts in the weight blocks in strategic places along x-axis, y-axis, so that when you do turn it, tilt it offline, tilt it off axis, you're not really affecting it by putting the holes in it, by finger holes and thumb holes. So the voids that go into the ball, you've already created dynamic integrity pre-drilling, and it maintains pretty much the closer to that same dynamic integrity after drilling. And there's other parts that we've done over the years that have been, we've built it a certain way knowing that you're going to drill into a certain section of that weight block closer to the Y to increase the intermediate a little bit, so that those are manipulated after drilling. So there's pre-numbers and post-numbers, and those are dramatically different. And the Sentinel falls in that category of, we were trying to create dynamic integrity before and maintain as much dynamic integrity after drilling.
Back over the past 20 plus years, Storm has definitely been an industry leader, especially in asymmetry. We have a lot of different asymmetric shapes, a lot of different designs. Going back, what were kind of some of the milestones or some of the breakthroughs that kind of helped us learn more what aspects of that asymmetry are going to help the bowler a little bit more, hurt the bowler a little bit more? What were some of the milestones?
I think from the beginning, Storm was a really huge innovator in split density. We go way back to an El Nino in the late 90s, and you had basically a light bulb shape that you built one half heavier, almost twice as heavy as the other half, which had never been done in the industry. Everybody told us we were crazy for doing it. And that was just before I got on board with Storm. And in the early 2000s, that split density, we were trying to take it to a different level. And so the idea of using the symmetrical shape and then creating asymmetry off of a symmetrical shape, that's how we did it. And then we kind of fast forwarded to taking a symmetrical shape and then putting things inside of it. We went to disc technology, rad technology. Everybody remembers X Factors. X Factor was like one that kind of was another milestone for us in the early 2000s. And you had X Factor was a big milestone. And then we kind of built off of that into some other balls, Triple X, and we went from a single disc to a double disc to a triple disc, which was, they were getting heavier and heavier and heavier inside that ball, and very influential in trying to create a very strong preferred spin axis. So then, keep going down that path, and as we got into the middle 2000s, and I was doing a lot of the assisting on the Storm side, but doing most of the design on the rotor grip side.
Friction, but the other thing we did with this core was, it's a different direction. Everybody's worked so hard on, symmetrical, asymmetrical, and trying to maintain a certain number. It's always about the numbers. Well, I went with a shape, and then trying to maintain a differential, and trying to be more consistent, and trying to give something that works for a whole variety of bowlers, not just an elite player or an average player. This is something that I was trying to give everybody value in this product.
The nucleus core came about was, okay, well, let's take the opposite effect. Let's take a symmetrical piece and start cutting it away to create the asymmetry. And that first of that nucleus core in the cell was the first one where we were trying to cut the contours, and I was really trying to get it carved out to really create asymmetry, but do it equally across the z-axis on both sides, so that you had that kind of that elliptical asymmetry. And it was something that had never really been done in the industry. And then it kind of rocketed forward and had great success for a couple of years there, and it has had many other additions as far as within the cell line. And then we fast forwarded, keep moving along and making other designs, and then coming across the catalyst design was another one where we made that cavity again, but we took a big symmetric piece and just carved the cavity out of one side of it versus two sides of it. So that gave us a whole nother kind of realm of creating the void and creating that asymmetry in a symmetric part to start, and then getting it to that point. And then fast forward, here we are now in the 2023. We have Sentinel, which is something that kind of plays on both sides of those lines. Big mass, big volume, like we had in the nucleus. Big volume, like we had in the catalyst, the crux part, and still to creating those voids and doing it in a method that gives us kind of a little bit of pieces of all those over the years.